Welcome, everyone, to another Innovate You Dialogues. If this is your first time joining, the purpose of Innovate You Dialogues is to build an inclusive community of women in STEM leaders and professionals who want to learn, share, and connect. I hope our audience will gain knowledge, new perspectives on the topics, challenge and expand their beliefs. They will also share their wisdom to enrich the community and drive personal and professional growth. Together with our guest speakers, we will amplify our voices, take bold actions, and create meaningful connections to create more positive impact in the community and beyond. I'm Amy O, founder and executive coach of Innovate You and Fascinate Certified Advisor. I was in IT for over 20 years and before pivoting my career to coaching. So I emphasize on empowering women in STEM leaders as I want to contribute back into the industry and the community. Today, I'm so excited to have Jeannie Wong with me, an accomplished woman in STEM leader. Jeannie is the head of IT at MUFG in Canada. She has a diverse background spanning over 2 decades in the IT industry. Jeannie continues to drive a dynamic and empathetic culture to innovate, nurture talent, and build high performing teams, and that thrives on collaborations. She's committed to create a supportive work environment that empowers individuals to achieve their full potential and deliver measurable value and organizational success. Welcome, Jeannie. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks for the warm welcome and having me on this session.
You're very welcome and so happy to have you here. And by the way, happy International Women's Day for tomorrow.
Same here. Happy International Women's Day for everybody.
Thank you. So, for our audience, if you have any questions, put it in the comment. We will get to it at the end of this and also even after the event. So, if you're listening to the recording later. So, let's dive into our topic today. Our topic is closing the gender gap in technology leadership. And this year's the International Women's Day theme is Accelerate Action. So I encourage our audience to take notes and also think about what you will do to accelerate action to close the gender gap. Let's take a look at the numbers. According to the World Economic Forum, at the rate of current progress, it will take another 133 years until 2158 to reach full gender parity. That's why this year's emphasis on the urgency to take swift actions, accelerate efforts to remove systemic barriers and biases so that impede women's equality, both in the personal and professional fronts. So when we look at tech, only 29% of tech leadership roles are held by women, while improving gender parity is far from achieved. That's what Deloitte has in the research. Now, more specifically, women represented only 18% of CIO or CTO roles. If we look at the pay gap, women in tech earn 84 cents for every dollar that men earn. And Harvard Business Review's research has also shown that 30% of the women leave tech due to poor work life balance. So, despite all the progress, women remain underrepresented in the tech leadership. So today we're diving into this real barriers and the actions that we can take to change this narrative. Now, why do you think? Jeannie, first of all, let's take a look at that the challenges, right? So the first thing I wanted you to share is based on your experience and observation. What are those key barriers that really preventing women from reaching to the C-suite in tech?
Yeah, that's a thoughtful question. I think that really it is the first number one thing is the pipeline problem. Um, I'm from an engineering background, and even at the time when I was in my university, women is always the very small number of representation in the class. And even fast forward here now, the situation doesn't change much. And hence, if you can think of with a poor people and women's been always, lower number, actually much lower number. As you moved up into this ladder, the the opportunity, the pool that available for women, or as women is also much lesser, and hence it is not surprised to see this number continue to be very challenging.
Absolutely. Like as you mentioned about the pipeline, right? Totally agree. Like when even in school, I was in science, so the ratio was a little bit better. There were a lot of women there as well. But once I get into the IT field, when I started working, pretty much all through the career, my own team is just men, basically, and then just myself or maybe one or other person in the team that's women, right? That ratio is far from what we wanted to see. And as you mentioned, it keeps dropping. Like once you kind of continue up the level, like in the organization. What
Yeah,
else?
that there's
Yeah.
the other thing too is that because of this, I'll call it the chicken and egg problem. And when you don't see a woman as a model in C-suite or as a senior executive, you just don't know what you can do or you can be getting as you progress in your career. And hence, when I think back, is my first light bulb moment is really when I see a senior women leader that I'm working for her, and I'm like, oh, I can be like her at someday. And that kind of model, if it's not there for women, we just don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So when you saw that woman in the leadership role, that kind of sparked a question to yourself. So if she could do it, why not me? Right? Like that it's very
Absolutely.
helpful, right? To see. Now the thing
Yeah.
is, going back to the pipeline problem, if we don't see a lot of those examples, how are we gonna help our next generation of women in STEM? Right. So we're gonna tackle a little bit more on
Mhm.
that when we get to that. And I wonder,
Yeah.
why do you think that so many women get feel that they get stuck at the mid-level management?
Yeah. Well, let's dissect that because when someone feels stuck, it is when they're at crossroad and they have options. They don't know what to choose.
Mm,
That could be one scenario,
mm,
or some scenario could be you just have no other option. You
mm,
just have to stay where you are. And oftentimes, when you talk about the mid management, is probably women's are at the age of a childbearing time, and they may have to make a very significant choice at their life. Um, and and that comes to what choice a woman would have to make, and all choices are good choice. And I'm not saying that uh, you can have one or another, but looking back, it is, do we have the environment to encourage women to take both and to support them,
yeah.
the flexibility and all that. And
Mhm,
hence, when even a woman choose to take a break for a while, do we have the RAM to help them to get back into the profession that they used to love and they used to be very good at? And those are the couple of things that I think the stuff can be happening if we don't give them options there.
yeah. I love that you when you break it down to say that when you feel stuck is actually you're at a crossroad, right? Like you're not really stuck. You have
Mhm.
choices. But women need to be able to see those choices, those options as well. And the organization can help them to see those options. The person themselves can have those training or coaching to help them to see their options. When you mention about, at those mid level of management time is when women might have thinking to start their own family, right? It just brought me back to where I was at the time. If I had to be honest, I did delay. my start of the family because I was like, and at that time, like I didn't know very much. I didn't have a good coach to help me to think through things. That I thought if I were to leave for a year, what happened to my role? What happened to my opportunities? I'm so close to kind of keep going up. Like, what is going to happen then, right? I don't want to lose that because I built up the 10 years of my career, and then I'm now at the point that I want it to be more. But if I had a child, so those are very real issues that women face that they have to consider. And to your point, they're all good choices, right? I did not regret of choosing what I chose, but I wish I knew a little bit more that I could have other options as well and not have to worry about it so much that to make me delay of starting a family. But it's all good right now, right? But it is those options that we need to help women to see. I totally agree with that, and thank you so much for highlighting that's the challenge that women often face, right? What about companies? How companies can do differently, um, and those companies, especially that they are able to show that they successfully advance the women in tech into leadership roles. What do you think that they do differently that other companies can model after?
I think it's really the intent behind the hiring that they truly embrace diversity. I don't think women are asking for exception here. We're asking for equal opportunity. We just want to be considered and give the same opportunity when it's ready for us, and hence that intention behind can be supported by intentional hiring. It can be supported by the leadership that it's really showing the diversity there. It could be programmed that truly let women to elevate and get the support they need in at their work. There's so many things that we can do. And lastly, I think that the mentorship program, which is I know that we're gonna to talk a little bit even more later, is that that support, like you said, when we don't know, and if there's a model and a sounding board for us to hear us to give advice, then we can be inspired to something that we haven't ever thought of.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, that program, as you said, like to have that mentorship and that really get to lead us into talking about what companies can do to provide those support, right? And let's dive deeper into that topic. And we often, talk about like mentorship, sponsorship, and coaching as well. So let's take a look at some of the numbers. I like to also making it real, like there is data behind this. McKinsey has studies to show that companies with diverse leadership outperform 21%, right? When they have that gender balance in leadership team. It really drives innovation and profitability as well as studies have shown after one another, right? And women-led tech companies achieve 35% higher ROI and inclusive leadership that drives financial success and sustainability. The tech companies that with women on their boards perform 25% better. So these companies provide coaching, mentorship, and they have that good system, as you mentioned, about support. So when the companies train their senior leaders, coaching skills, right, that they can leverage and coach and having those coaching conversation internally rather than giving those directive telling and allows more innovative and strategic thinking across. I do believe that and I have experienced that it really drives and makes a difference like in the company when you have that in that culture. And also, when you have companies that embrace having external coaching, it also allows the senior leaders and aspiring leaders to work with independent coaches, right? Those independent coaches don't have the preconception of the company's culture or ways of working baggage, I call them. It really sparks richer explorative conversation, right? That often lead to transformative change for those individuals and also their teams. It impacts the team's behavior as well. So I can attest to that. Like I have experience with that as well. Now, what's your experience, Jeannie, and your in your coaching and mentorship and sponsorship?
I wish I have I can meet my first mentor earlier.
Mm,
Because like you said, not every company can offer that. And to me, the mentorship program is so important. And that is also my own personal story, which sometimes you might not be even have to be very organized or intentional. Having that model in front of your staff, and that inspire people that oh, like you said, I can be there at some point, and I'll be working hard on that. And secondly is really don't afraid to ask question. Your next aspiration or your next opportunity is just one question away. And oftentimes I also reflect on myself is I didn't know should I ask or who to ask, or would I be too bold if I ask this, right? So I encourage women to reach out to have your network to find your support.
I love that. I love that when you said, yeah, ask the questions, ask people to help, right? And especially when you're early in your career, you felt like, oh, if I'm asking too many questions, am I showing that I don't know anything? Like, am I not good enough? Right. And we have those questions in mind. But in fact, it is about asking questions that you are going to get the support, you are going to get the insights early on. And I remember like, and there's like the wise words that I was told is that ask, there's no stupid question. And if you think of it, it is true. You just have to learn how to like ask more questions and be able to get better and better at it, asking questions as well. That's really crucial. Thanks for sharing that. So for our audience, what is that one action you think you can take now to drive more coaching, mentoring culture in your organization to accelerate the individuals and teams growth? Think about that and write it down. So let's take a look of the practical ways, right? So we talked about that a little bit already, but I would like to get deeper into what are those practical strategies that you can share that is directly responsible for your successful career advancing to the C suite.
Um, a couple of thoughts that came to mind. One is we need to find the aspiration of our life. We like you said, the why. Why this is important to me and why I want to be that, right? The aspiration is so important because I always say career is a huge part of our life, and you cannot just simply separate this is my work life and this is my personal life. It's a representation of the combination of both, and hence where is your aspiration in life and your career, and once you found and go for it. And secondly is finding the sounding board. It can be somebody you trust, it can be somebody that from your family member, it can be a friend, it can be a mentor, somebody that you can um, share thoughts, share tears, share joy with. And lastly, I think that one of the practical thing for me is be curious. Always ask the question, and sometimes even when you doubt yourself and you have to really ask yourself, why not?
That's the
So
powerful.
those are a few things
Yeah,
that does feel thing that came to mind.
yeah, that's a powerful question, right? Why not? And if we think of that, then there's nothing to hold you back, really, right? You just have to do it. But I really wanted to highlight the things I really feel that strongly about is understanding your why, understanding what inspired you, right? Where you wanted to head. the purpose that you wanted to drive. And those, if you can see that and truly bring that to life, to put it in the forefront, and all the actions you can take will just follow along, right? It will align to that. And that's where you can see the success. And like I would also add, sometimes adding the celebration, the wins that along the way. Sometimes we feel like, oh, how come I still have not got to the point where I wanted to be? But look back and see how far you have come. It truly works because you can see how little by little you're building up that momentum. You're adding, the successes that is leading you to the bigger success. We often, especially women, we kind of minimize our wins. Like, oh, this is something I just had to do, or like I just is in my role. Like I just have to perform. Just have to do this. Yes, you have to, but at the same time, those are successes that's worth celebrating. Whether it's small steps, one step, half a step, that is a powerful way to kind of keep that momentum going, right? I love the way also you said to have a sounding board, to have someone that you can really open up, like to share the joys, share those tears. There are moments that it's going to be difficult. There are moments that is going to be not in your plan. Like if you were the type to plan, like it's going to derail perhaps that you felt, oh my goodness, this is the end of the world. Like I will no longer be able to achieve what I wanted to achieve this year and in 2 years' time. But truly it is that you need someone to be able to listen to you, help you, to you just sit there and listen, to kind of help you to process this through, and that's not going to be the end of the world because you have already made progress, right? I really love that. Thank you so
Yes, the
much.
progress matter.
Yeah, for sure. And that curiosity, right? And curiosity gets you to ask more
Yes,
questions. Asking more questions leads you to open up more doors at the same time. Yeah.
absolutely.
What about one lesson that you have learned that you wish you knew earlier that could have changed your trajectory if you look back?
Well, that is a very tricky question because I feel like I have to go through what I have been through so that it put me where I am, who I am today. However, I think that one lesson perhaps I would wish to learn earlier is to solidify my life foundation, or life value foundation. Because everything built from the ground up. If you think of building a house, you need a solid foundation. And if you're thinking about life and career, you also need a very solid foundation on guiding you to make decisions. We make decisions every single day. But if someone can have a solid foundation, the moral compass, the guidance of how and what to make my next career move, and that to me will be immensely helpful. But I'm grateful for anything that has happened in the past in my career trajectory that make who I am today. That's also perhaps I would mention that even sometimes women as the minority in STEM field, um, we see that there are barriers in front of us, and I'm gonna probably want to encourage all of us together that we kind of change that as a stepping stone, because without all this, we do not have the opportunity to elevate. And just because they happen in front of us, that challenge us to be better, to think as a different person, to think as a better person, and hence we all together can elevate. So I hope that this is something that it will help us to propel forward. But this is all up to us. We can also let this so-called barrier to set us back and too. So we have a choice.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing those insights. Like there's so much to unpack. It's like if you audience that you want to go back and listen to the recording, there's a lot of key learnings that we can pick from Jeannie's experience and her insights. And the last part about having to turn those challenges into your opportunities and see it from a different light, right, is our choice. You don't have to. You can see it as barriers. There are roadblocks that are just shutting down your laneways. You can see it that way as well. But it's much more powerful, as she puts it. And if you see it as opportunities, then those barriers will just break down, right? They become those stepping stones, so to speak, right? To help you to elevate yourself and also the people around you, other women around you. And going back to the initial challenge that Jeannie has mentioned, is the pipeline. So how do we elevate ourselves and other women's among in this field that when we see the challenges, turn those into opportunities and stepping stones to help each other, to elevate each other. I love you, the audience, to reflect back in your career journey and what is that one thing that you can take from Jeannie's advice to help you accelerate your advancement. Remember, it's accelerate action that we wanted to focus on this year, International Women's Day. So let me just have a quick look at if there is any question. Yes, I do see that. Okay. I see a comment about you need to set some immediate goals and then some long term goals. And immediate goals can be I want to be a better speaker or presenter, for example. A long term goal can be how can I be considered for the C level? I love that. Isn't it, Jeannie? Like, is that brilliant?
Absolutely. That the long-term goal, that's your aspiration, that's your vision, and who you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, wish you the success on having those short term and also long term goal, and work towards that, right? And you have an aim. So, with that, I know it's already time, and as often I run out of time because there's so much that we can delve into, and I'd love to have Jeannie back and the future dates, and then we continue to explore other topics as well. But I loved you to also just to give one more advice, if you could, a game changing advice for women aspiring to reach that C suite, what would that be?
Yeah, so to this year, the theme is the accelerate action. So I thought maybe I'll just give three A's to share. The A's are the acknowledge the opportunity, acknowledge the challenge, and we elevate. The second A is the to affirmation. We need to affirm ourselves. We need to have the confidence that we know that we have a space, we belong, and we can be strong. And finally, the last A is to ask. Ask for help, ask to help, because collectively we can create this contagious loving kindness to each other to support. It's not just about me taking, but also how can I give back? Maybe find a mentee, mentor some high school women that they also look up to somebody like you in the STEM field, right? Um, and collectively we can be strong.
Wow, that's so powerful. The three A's. So remember, acknowledge, affirmation, and ask. Right? Ask for help, but also ask to help. That collective power that we can lift each other up and help to build a better future. That's amazing. I'll add another A there. That's just
Yeah.
amazing insights that you have provided. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for joining us, Jeannie. And thank you so much for the audience that's joined us and also coming back to the recording. So, what is the accelerate action that you can now do to support yourself and around you to close that gender gap? That is the question for you to do a little bit of homework and write down on the comments in this event. And I'd love to hear from all audience as well. So don't forget that you can also follow Jeannie that on LinkedIn, that she can constantly providing her insights there. And don't forget to also ring the bell on my profile so you don't miss any updates for future events. Our next I Innovate You Dialogues is going to be on March the 21st, Friday again, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to talk about from the buzzword to breakthrough, women in STEM accelerating Gen AI adoption in the workplace. So stay tuned for more details to see who is our speaker for that day. Are you ready to amplify your leadership? Schedule time with me to explore a partnership to help you overcome barriers, unlock your potential, and amplify your leadership voice. To all of you, happy International Women's Day. Thank you so much, Jeannie, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Bye for now.